Welcome to Real Estate Milestones, where we explore fascinating topics in commercial real estate with knowledgeable industry experts. I'm your host, Ben Malik, and I'm a young real estate professional who is passionate about adding value to people's lives through the incredible power of real estate. My goal is to help you discover what the heck is going on in the industry and how you can get involved. This is Real Estate Milestones, where your future in real estate lies just around the corner. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Real Estate Milestones. Today we have Grant Weiss, who is the CEO of RockVal. RockVal is a technology and data company for real estate. It has some cool capacities that we're going to learn about today. But to start, Grant, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you. Thank you, Ben, for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. So just for a little context, I met Grant and some of his team at Blueprint conference in Las Vegas, which is, I guess, the largest prop tech conference in the country. I was really excited, met a lot of cool technologies, but definitely thought RockVal was one of the more fascinating and powerful ones that I can see myself using in the near term. So definitely excited to get into it. But to start, Grant, what was your first milestone in real estate?
Yeah, so first milestone. I went to Cornell for finance and real estate. We were using, different technologies there, but I graduated and went to a firm called the Altman Companies, based out of Boca Raton. I guess the first milestone is when we were closing on a deal. The deal ended up being $150 million multifamily deal. I was the analyst running, the deal sheet on the land acquisition at the time, and then we were running back and forth with the pro forma numbers. But that was probably my first milestone right out of school. Basically, had to run the whole pitch on the project to all the partners, which was definitely memorable.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely cool when you get to see all the different parts and wear a bunch of different hats and have to figure out a situation like that. So sounds good. Well, how did you know that real estate was for you? Where did that initial, feeling or interest come from?
For sure, for sure. So I grew up around it, looking at different properties, looking at, a family office portfolio in New York, in Florida. Just always been really interested in passive income and being able to have, basically your money go to work for you, and really having like eyes on target. So, not having necessarily, some you know, way of generating income through publicly traded security where you have no, like you were saying before, you don't have access to Tim Cook at Apple, right? So really being able to deal with tenants, look at different situations for value add opportunities, but then also having a portfolio strategy where you can kind of continuously build on your asset pool and compound that over time. Sort of even at like 16, I'm looking at, triple net deals. And I don't know why I was looking at it when I was 16, but I remember this one distinct deal. It had a deli, a hair salon, a realtor office. It was right outside of my middle school. And I was always like, I'm going to buy that. I'm going to buy that asset. And then I actually worked with somebody who ended up buying it, which was pretty interesting. But definitely just a very dynamic industry. I'm also heavily now on the tech side. I run a company. We have a bunch of employees, and we're just expanding now. So definitely a lot more tech focused at this point in my career.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And I think, looking at triple net lease deals is a little bit cooler than what I was doing. I remember when I was, you know, preteen, 12 or so, I picked up one of my mom's 90-page loan docs and read that for fun. Wanted to learn the
Hey,
lingo and kind of what's going on. And I think looking at deals is maybe a little more engaging than that, but did learn a
you were
lot.
born. You were born to be an attorney.
No, I did argue a lot with both of my parents who both happen to be lawyers. That had proved to
There
me
you go.
why it was reasonable to give me any sort of punishment.
That's actually, I talk to people now, and my friends that are lawyers now. That's actually a really good avenue for getting access to deals, because a lot of these attorneys that have enough other capital or other cash flow, they can roll their fees into deals and basically get access to that, to different tranches on the equity side. So um, yeah, no, I've seen that done quite a bit.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful. Maybe you'll even be considered a real estate professional status if you do it enough,
For
you know?
sure, for
So,
sure.
yeah, well, now that you've kind of transitioned on the tech side, and I kind of want to hear a little bit about how that journey or how that spark came to be. Have you always had this entrepreneurial spark in you, and then, when was that really ignited to go forward with a project in tech and entrepreneurship?
For sure, for sure. Are you familiar with a program called Argus?
Yes, I am. I'm contemplating whether I should drop 1.5K to get the certification.
There you go. So if you work for an institution, you have to use Argus. Essentially, that's kind of the rule. When I was at school, I we had to use Argus, and I was thinking, I was at school, I was a bit naive at the time. I was like, this program, I can make this better. And basically, I recreated, an Argus competing software, and that was the first iteration of RockVal. But I coded it myself, so I didn't have a coding background. So nights, weekends, my early 20s, I'm coding this discounted cash flow analysis software, and launched the first iteration. Go to market with it, and I couldn't give it away. I couldn't give it away. The program was great. It was very, sleek. It was a lot easier, but I didn't realize why people used Argus. And that was a major revelation about a few years ago. So basically, people are using Argus. So you're a developer or you're a sponsor, and you're looking to raise institutional capital, and you have an Excel model, and you send it to them. What could happen if you have an Excel model and you send it to Prudential, right? Does their analyst know your Excel model? No,
Absolutely not.
right? Right. But so Argus is really, it's not necessarily it is an underwriting solution, but it's also just as much as a communication tool. So everybody has the exact same interpretation of what's being shared. And that's what I didn't necessarily realize when Argus was when I was developing this software to compete with Argus. And then I also go to find out that a very small fraction of the market compared to the total real estate universe, right? So 2021, over 95% of the deals that transacted were sub $10 million. 95% of the deals. Those deals are not being underwritten on Argus by a vast majority. It's all Excel, right? So a few years ago, we made a huge pivot to having a solution has the underwriting, but also has the data, the research, the OM creation to actually make you that much more efficient as a sponsor and investment sales broker. So it wasn't enough to have like a cash flow analysis tool. We had to have the automation, the AI, the data analysis, the reports, to really, you identify an asset to purchase, we can have a full OM package created with the financials, with all the data to support it within a few minutes, as a professional. So really saving you hours and hours of time.
Hours of time, and I guess 3 or 4 people's jobs.
Well, the whole thing, and I kind of go back and forth with that. It's like, okay, you're making people more efficient, but like what real estate comes down to, because like our technology is really, all right, our technology, the way that we built it and the way that we keep kind of envisioning it is we want to take the thinking out of real estate. And
Hmm.
as hard as that is to like kind of it's not necessarily taking jobs away, but it's, real estate's really, the premise of real estate is relationships. So a lot of people, they're not going to do business with you unless you have a relationship with them. And having the data and the automated process to create offering packages to find deals, to underwrite deals, this is all technology that we're currently rolling out piece by piece. We already have a lot of it rolled out, and we keep rolling out additional features that automate your thinking. So like, this is the asset I want to target. what's the value add situation look like for that asset? What's the estimated current scenario? What's the value add? What's the repositioning scenario? What's the highest and best use? Who would I who would I buy this, or who the owner is? What other assets they own? What's the probability that they're willing to sell? Who would I look to fund this asset? Which banks should I use to fund this asset? That's all being automated.
Mm-hmm.
All of that's being automated right now with technologies like ours. So like where do people really come in with their skill sets and their ability to really make a difference in the industry? And sure, you have to have an analytical ability, but I've also seen old timers that write a few numbers on the back of a piece of paper and they'll do the deal. It's like some of the stuff is 1.1 plus 1 equals 2. Some of the stuff, if you work on a very institutional level, you have to pencil out every single detail. And then, if the deal makes a lot less sense, you have to do a lot more work to make it look like it makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. No, yeah, I definitely, in terms of the comment I made, yeah, definitely is very valuable to have something like RockVal to make everyone more efficient, because a lot of the time that you're spending plugging in numbers and doing things that are, pretty obvious, you just have to do it. You have to get the information. If you can spend less time doing that and spend more time doing the place where you actually create the value rather than just do the tasks, that you have more efficient group, can get more deals done, can look at more deals, and overall be more productive. So definitely a
For
valuable tool. And instead, I've been listening to a lot of Lex Friedman podcasts. So he talks a lot about robots and machine learning and technology, and it definitely seems like the path we're going is like you need the human brain to be use that with the technology and the processing capabilities of a computer in order to get this really beautiful solution that works together. So it's the human intuition with the power of the computer, and I think that's a really beautiful way of putting it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I definitely agree. I think human intuition is always going to be there. The relationships are always going to be there. I think our industry is just changing so fast when it comes to capital sourcing. You see fractionalized ownership. We're making a big play with that space as well, where we're integrating with a lot of other platforms that basically you package the deal on RockVal, and then you're able to offshoot that to different platforms for your capital raise. We want every college kid at Tulane to be able to have their app out and just buy $100 worth of real estate, right? So like all of that is just changing the game. I always think about now, it's like who's going to be the winner in the space, or like who, if you look at like the capital structures, and if you fractionalize say 80% of the equity, and you keep like a some type of structure where you're the executor on the deal, like you're the actual managing partner on the deal, but then you're able to offshoot a lot of the equity, or maybe the equity game is just completely divided amongst people, and then one individual is kind of appointed to be the property manager in the leasing company, and then there's really no capital, there's no sponsor anymore, right? It's a group of investors who appointed a custodian to do the management, the leasing, and things of that nature. So I think there's a lot of things that we'll see kind of shake out over the next 5-10 years.
Yeah, definitely a great time to be in real estate. It's, technology has hit a lot of different sectors much faster than it hit real estate, given real estate is, slower deal process because, takes longer to buy an asset, a lot less liquidity. I think an interesting thing is that part of the outsized returns available in real estate is a object of, the illiquidity of the market. The fact that there's no clearing price of an asset, where every asset is unique from every other asset, therefore has its own unique price. It's not like one share of Apple is like any other share of Apple. It's really, this is one apartment building with this criteria in this market, in this exact plot of land, which no other property could be on this exact plot of land. So the liquidity is a threat maybe in terms of, the ability to find overlooked opportunities. However, it definitely would be a more efficient market with a lot more opportunities for people with less capital to get into it and make a modest, attractive yield.
That's it. That's it. Yeah.
Sweet. So I want to go back a little bit to the beginning of RockVal and kind of like have you walk us through the evolution of how it's progressed and just pick out some of the moments that you think was pivotal in the evolution. I'm definitely thinking about kind of did it start out, how long was it just you, how like what was the initial team like, and
Yeah.
what's the team now, and how's the culture, and how's everything changed?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So initially just me, building RockVal V1, basically an enterprise product with, all these different functionalities that you would use at, a bigger institution. Building that by myself over like a 3-year period. Again, it would have taken me a lot less time if I knew how to code. Just learning how to code. So I built this on the original technology stack. Kind of got a little frustrated with it. I worked, I built some other platforms and, worked at different companies along the way. RockVal, you're talking about a 9-year journey right now. Right. So there's a year where it stopped, 6 months where it stopped because of, building other technologies and, earning money essentially. But about 2 years ago, actually 3 years ago, I was kind of having the idea of, taking the current technology and building it into what it is today. But not doing it myself, going out, raising capital. So it took about, 6 months to get all that figured out. Raised our first little bit of capital. Since we've raised about $2 million. Going to be going out for a larger round next year, to really take this nationwide. We have users throughout the country, but basically what's happened is we have this solution that's so attractive and so appealing because of what it can do and because of the price point, that you can kind of drop it into any partnership channel you could identify. And that's where there's been a huge game changing opportunity set with our like go to market strategy, where we're constantly just focused on partnership channels. So we're talking about MLSs, like these different listing organizations, like the Miami Board of Realtors, for example. They have 60,000 members, right? They have 5,000 commercial members. So these types of channels have a much larger distribution than calling an individual, owner or broker to sell our software to. So basically, our entire focus is partnership channels right now. And because of our product's pricing and how easy it is to use, it's kind of like, can I establish a partnership channel, and then can I make that channel successful? Can I provide that channel with enough educational materials and things of that nature to really bring it to the next level? And that's where we've built this pipeline of users that looks like hundreds of thousands of users through all these different channels right now. And now, basically, what we're doing is we're raising a pretty sizable round to facilitate those channels. So we have the technology, we have the sales process defined, we've really identified and really focused in on our target users. Growing out the team, we have got like 8 people on the team now. We're hopefully adding another 10 over the next 6 months, between developers, business development, and things of that nature. The other thing that I really learned in this journey is who you're getting your capital from is very important. So people that can really add value. So one of our investors in the last round, it's a national brokerage firm. They have about 100 brokers throughout the country, right? And they're growing at a good rate. So it's like, how do you optimize your distribution, and how do you make your capital raise work for you to where you can have some strategic money come on board that can use your software and push that out to the market? So that's kind of a condensed version of the last 9 years of my life.
Well, yeah, it's very exciting. I still think it's very impressive that you just coded it without any coding background. I actually started doing coding class because I wanted to have the capacity to be able to make my own minimum viable product if I ever have an epiphany like you. I don't want to have to spend whatever $100,000, hire a coder just to try something out. And I also want to, shortcut the time process that it takes. But ultimately, it seems like maybe it's a who not how situation where I know this is not my superpower, so I should leave that up to someone who can do it much more efficiently and much more effectively than me. And I do want to learn it just to understand it and be able to coach people and be able to
Yeah,
ask people what I want to build. But I definitely think there's people out there who are built to do it.
for sure, for sure. And that's the other thing is I would recommend if somebody, I talked to a company the other day and they're like, we're going to build our prototype for 250,000, right? Something like that. This fixed price software never works. It doesn't. There's too many changing variables in software to have that type of structure. So the best bet is to have somebody who understands the industry, understands what to do, have them as like a consultant, maybe give them like some advisory shares just to like oversee what your developer is doing, and then having a developer execute on the plan that was established by your advisor. But you're talking about a monthly cost. You're talking about a cost that's monthly because from the time that the project starts to the end, if you negotiate a prefixed contract, I've never seen it work in my life. I've never ever seen it work. It doesn't work for the client, it doesn't work for the developer. But if you're able to say, okay, this is my budget, this developer in either local or overseas, say, $5,000 to $10,000 a month, over 6 months, this is what we're agreeing to. You as a client, you're going to want to change things along the way, right? And basically to make it a very fluid process. So that's what I would recommend is you don't come up with some, abstract fixed price. You say, okay, here's my advisor, here's our plan, let's start, and you take it month by month and you just set these milestones, and then you as a client can flex and then they can flex, and basically you have this very fluid process rather than saying like this is like a fixed project end to end. I know that was a little bit of a rant, but if anybody's looking to build software, I recommend not doing the fixed approach. Do month over month, see how it goes, but
All
have
right.
somebody oversee what's going on.
Yeah, well, that's good advice, definitely. And yeah, it's I think this is a lesson you could take from Elon Musk. Just because it should be physically possible for someone to do it in a certain amount of time doesn't mean it's going to happen in that certain amount of time. And I think
For
though
sure.
his timing projections are, if a human worked 100% of the time at maximum efficiency, this is how long it would take, and it clearly never works like
Exactly.
that. It doesn't leave room for hiccups or errors or changes or anything. So I guess the last question I want to ask you before the lightning round is you're the CEO. What does that mean for you in RockVal? Does that mean you're PR, IR, engineer, managing, or and how many hats do you wear, and how does that work? And then also, what is a good leader, and what does it mean to be a leader?
Yeah. So I guess just talking about the hats. So initially, obviously, I was everything. Um, I do have somebody helping me with more like high level business development. We're talking to different corporates throughout the country now, and I bring somebody in with a lot of sales experience. But in terms of product strategy, sales marketing, I'm also the CTO. I'm also CRO, but I'm starting to fill in different gaps. So ideally I can be like just a pure CEO, right? I can think strategy, I can talk to customer, I can manage teams, I can hit these different milestones. But I'm still wearing a lot of hats. I'm still coding. I'm still I raised all the capital for this thing, and you're communicating with investors. So you know fundraising is a full-time job, right? And you have a laundry list of other things you have to do on top of just the fundraising part. So I think going back to kind of what I've learned over the time, it's you definitely want to have a partner in this so you can split the workload. because I think we have a great team, but as like other people say, like nobody's going to think and care about your business the way you do. It's impossible for anybody to want or have to think about your business the way you do. So having two people that are fully bought in, or three people that are fully bought in, I can see where we could have scaled out a lot faster, if that would have happened earlier. Leadership to me is doing the most with what you have and creating an environment that encourages people to push themselves as hard as they can, towards a common goal. I think a lot of these companies that I've seen, they tout different hiring from top tier like recruitment efforts in the prop tech space. You pay somebody $500,000 to be a CTO of a early stage startup. It's like, okay, you raised 5 million. If you have a few more rock stars like that, you better be so efficient to get to your next milestone, or you're burning out of cash. And I've seen that happen a few times, where these VCs will write $5 million check and say, go hit a milestone, and you burn your 5 million in 1 year, and then the capital markets shift and you can't raise your next round, and then you have to let everybody go anyway. So I think there's a lot of talent that is untapped because of the lack of leaders' ability to bring out the best out of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's insightful. It seems like the person who wins out is the guy with the $500,000 salary, while everyone else goes home empty-handed.
Exactly.
Great. So you ready for the lightning round?
I'm ready. I'm ready for the lightning round.
Let's do it. So if you could choose any superpower, what would it be?
Superpower. Jeez. I guess not having to sleep. I don't know if that's a superpower.
Definitely would. It would give you a third of your time back. Hopefully you also don't have to eat. I think eating would eat only for pleasure, not for energy.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. No need for sleep would be amazing.
So what's your favorite book, or what's the one that's helped you the most?
Favorite book. The Greatest Salesman in the World was a really good one. Meditations by Marcus Aurelius was a really good one. Confronting the Constitution is one I'm reading right now. It's by Adam Bloom. It's super, super good. Yeah, no, there's too many. I'm one after another on the reading. I don't think there's anything else that. So I didn't read growing up, right? I just I don't know why. Just my fiance, she reads a book a day. She just goes and goes and goes. But yeah, the reading in my game, especially when things are tough, getting into a deep book and really reading helps calm everything down and just kind of levels out everything. So anyways.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Meditations is one I just read a couple of months ago. It's beautiful. I love how he says that people are not going to remember you in a couple of years after you're dead, but we're talking about him 2,000 years later. So I thought that was weird.
Yeah, and then there's another one I read that had that same messaging, where it was one of our presidents, and I forgot who said it. It's Eisenhower or something, but basically the premise was, fill up a bucket of water, put your hand in the bucket of water, take your hand out, and the hole that's remaining is how much people will miss you when you're gone. There's no hole left, right? So that was, I forgot which book I just read with that, but yeah, it's I guess we're still talking about Alexander the Great and a few others, but do you really think about him on the daily? No.
Well, I would like to say that I do think about Socrates on the daily, probably. Socrates and Plato.
Okay.
Yeah, I have an internal dialogue going on with them about what life really is. But forget about that for
I
now. But I
love
want to
it. I
know.
love it.
Yeah, it's a philosopher in me. But yeah, what motivates you to continue every day? On that note.
Yeah. No, I love what we're doing. I think it's probably the hardest type of battle between all the different hats and between all the different things that are going on. We keep opening up our opportunity, and the opportunity gets bigger and bigger. But then your ability to act, like your ability to execute, has to keep expanding the same capacity. So I love the challenge. I love being able to wake up and work towards some grand vision for what this company and the software and the platform can be. So I think that's what really gets me going. My whole premise is, how do we get to 100,000 users? I think that's like something I ask myself every day. It's like, how do you get to 100,000 users on your platform? And we have a few thousand now. Now we're just kind of breaking into these different channels. So it's like you're setting a goal and working towards that goal. Um, I've always been a big fan of making something very, very clear in your head or on paper, and then having these small little bite-sized pieces. It's like what Benjamin Franklin said, right? So happiness is achieved, one small advantage at a time. So I think that's kind of the MO here. But I'm a big fan of philosophy as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, how can you not be? We all want to know how to live a good life. So it's kind of inherent in our existence. But yeah, I guess last question is, what advice would you give to someone who wants to follow in your footsteps?
That's a good one. That's a good one. So I already gave some advice about the technology piece. If you don't know tech, I would definitely learn it. Go to Udemy, you get a course for $14. But when I first started, Udemy wasn't a thing. Um, so, being able to have a comprehensive overview of what's going on, diving into some books, on some deep reading on the technology stacks, um, really getting your hands dirty, but getting started. I know a lot of people that people are afraid to get started. People are afraid to, um, because you're talking about a long journey. If you start something like this, it's a very long process. It's not an overnight. Nothing like this is overnight, right? And you think, I'm going to have the next Uber app. Okay. I'm going to have the next, whatever app. And it's like, really think about it. Like, how are you going to build that app? How are you going to distribute that app in the hands of all these people? And then, I think about, um, there was this, I think it's like Think and Grow Rich or something like that, where they're talking about Charles Schwab, and all these people were pitching JP Morgan on consolidating the railroads, and you had the exact same pitch 5-6 times in a row to JP Morgan. So what does that tell you? Everybody had the same idea. The only person JP Morgan underwrote was Charles Schwab, because he was president of US Steel. And so when you go think about, starting one of these companies, it's like, what unique value set do I have, or what unique value set can I bring to the table from people that I partner with, that's going to make JP Morgan underwrite my deal? And I think that was probably one of the biggest things that I've learned. It's like, sophisticated investors understand that there's a problem, and you might know what the solution is, but what makes you different than the next guy that's coming up with the same solution? And what is your unique ability to deliver on that value, or your unique team's ability to deliver on your mission? And I always go back to that JP Morgan thing, and I'm just like, what makes me and my team unique? Like, what pieces do I need to have a unique story, so that we get underwritten for millions of dollars or whatever, to carry out this mission? So I would really keep that in mind. Like, this is not, if you're going to be Facebook or whatever size company, you have some outliers for sure, that right out of college, going in and and building this tech company. But it's not, that's by majority not the number of companies that really make it to the top, right? Um, I think one of the things that I would have done probably a little differently is probably not start this so young at a school. Like, sure, you have the idea, and we are where we are now. Like, if I didn't start it, I don't know if this would have ever started. I would have probably had a very traditional career path, but really taking the time to appreciate what senior people have done in their career and living that life when you're first starting out on your career as being just very humble. And that's something that I had to acquire, or let's say life beat it out of me. Life made
Mm-hmm.
me life beat me until I had to accept help from other people. I had to start looking at other people for help, and really appreciating what they bring to the table. One of the other things, and I know this is kind of a tangent, but it's very rare that when people when people willingly reach out to you and reach out to other people on your behalf to help you, it's a very rare thing. So when you meet people like that, that you can latch onto, that actually have your personal interest in mind, and you even have people, if you think about your family or what have you, and you have total strangers, and sometimes where they're just helping you, and they've been there in their career and things of that nature. Like, those are the types of people that you really want to surround yourself with, because then they want to help you and they want to get you to the next level and things of that nature. So, um, the other thing I would say, last thing I want to say, I know this is a pretty long rant, is do not do this in isolation. Um, you know, a 30-minute conversation has changed my life on multiple occasions for the better, and has repositioned things, and introduced me to additional investors, or team members and things of that nature. So doing this in isolation is very, very dangerous, especially if you don't have like an infrastructure. Like, I get, like, if you're a tech company, or if you're a tech guy or gal, and you have this infrastructure and you can put things together and get it to market, sure. And you want to be like super secretive of what you're building, I think that's fine. But if you're just starting out, talking to everybody and really getting that advice and bringing that into your kind of process is probably one of the biggest things that I did not do for those first few years. Because guess what? I had to rebuild everything from scratch after the fact, right? Sure, I was a lot faster at doing it, but because I was so siloed and I was just like, I'm going to compete with this one company, I missed the mark on where the opportunity really was. So.
Right. And well, before you start sharing, make sure to buy your domain. But otherwise, you definitely gotta share. Well, great. So one more thing. Since I put you on the spot, I want to give you a chance for revenge. So what's one question you had for me?
Let's go. So let's go. Let's go. Why'd you start the podcast?
Yeah, so I've been playing around with the idea for a while. I had a lot of role models who had podcasts that I'd hear and say, wow, that's really helpful, learning a lot. Isn't it awesome how they get to ask questions to these amazing, interesting people? Why can't I do that too? So definitely that was part of it, is that having the opportunity to, not only just reach out to people to ask them questions, but also say, if you want, we could put this in front of the world and you can get your message out to a greater audience. And it allows me to kind of, give people a platform to tell the world what they want to hear, and also gives me a chance to ask questions of them in a mutually beneficial relationship just by the nature of it. So that's definitely a big catalyst for why I started, but really it's just my curiosity got the best of me, and I wanted to just scale up my ability to learn and go directly to the source. And it's definitely the hardest part about the beginning was feeling like I hadn't found my voice. So who's going to listen to me? And then I realized that in order to find your voice, you have to use it. So I'm glad that my friend Adam Carswell pushed me to start and press record, because now I've kind of started to get my flow with it and understand and learn a lot about public speaking. And it's great it's a great way to network as well, because people can get engaged with your content on LinkedIn and on different platforms. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons. And my
How
advice to
many?
anyone.
I was just gonna, how many students at Tulane have a podcast?
I do not know of anyone who has a podcast, but I do know some people who think about starting a podcast after hearing mine. I tell them, press record. That's the best advice I could give to anyone who's thinking about starting a podcast. Even if you don't end up posting it, practicing speaking and figuring out and playing around is interesting. But what's the worst that could happen if you post it? You know.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. I think it's really powerful, especially right out of college. And if you just keep doing this in your career, I couldn't imagine in 20 years what this looks like.
Yeah, that's
Right.
another big thing. I see myself being in, having success in the future, however that may be defined. But I imagine a 20 and 18-year-old kid looking at Ben, say, "Hey, Ben, maybe I'm in the news for some reason." Say, "Wow, isn't he so successful? He's special. He's different. Like I can never do that. He's some innate ability that makes him great." I want them to go all the way back to the first episode and see how rough it was. How all I was a curious college student who decided to press record and ask people questions about something they're interested in, and that's where it led. It's not because I'm have some innate superpower, but it's really because I took repeated action consistently every day for the last 20 years, and that's what it
That
takes.
is
And
that, but that is a superpower. It's
well,
it's rare. It's rare. It's it is so rare. It's so simple. It's simple.
mhm.
It's very simple, but it's rare.
Yeah, well, I guess there's a misconception that simple equals easy, but definitely
Right.
not the same thing. It's hard to be consistent every week. It's a time consuming process, but it's rewarding. And whenever you have your doubt, it's like, I'm spending a lot of time doing this. Shouldn't I be like doing something else, whatever it could be. Obviously, there's
Right.
always a voice in your head that you're fighting with, but then one person's like, "Wow, thank you for that episode. That was really insightful. I learned a lot." I could just imagine someone learning about something they've never even known about, like RockVal, and saying, "Wow, if I didn't hear the story of someone who started technology and something they're interested in, I may have never, had the feeling or the confidence to do it. But now that I know it's possible, just the amount of people this may be able to impact is something that it keeps me going, and every little glimpse of that is really rewarding.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. Well, yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you coming on the show. It's been a pleasure to hear your story and learn a little bit about RockVal. Definitely excited to check it out. Lastly, where can people find you if they want to learn more?
So it's RockVal, RockVal.com. We're also on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. But yeah, if you go to our website, kind of get an overview of the whole platform. If you are a college student, you get access to the platform for free. Just reach out to, let's say, grant@rockval.com, and I'll put you in the right direction.
Awesome. Well, definitely excited about that for myself and for the people I work with at school. And well, Grant and everyone, keep making milestones. Before you go, I just wanted to say thanks again for tuning in to another awesome episode of Real Estate Milestones. If you've been enjoying the show and you'd like to offer your support, please leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It's the best way to increase the show's visibility and help the message get out to a greater audience. I really appreciate your time and support, and keep making milestones.
The information provided on this podcast is intended to be educational and informational only and is not considered to be formal legal advice. The listener should not take or refrain from taking action based on its content. Any listener in need of legal opinion upon which to rely in decision-making should consider formally engaging an attorney to review relevant facts in detail and examine the pertinent law as it applies to those facts.